All right. Greetings, my fellow free lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful land of Chapman, which is also known as New Mexico. And today's date, Friday, October 28th, 2016. Yeah, looks like everyone's going to be go out for the weekend, dress up real pretty. I know Monday's going to be Halloween night. But folks, have to just be safe, okay? There's a bunch of crazies out there around that time. So, yeah, just checking on a few things as usual. Just getting prepped up. It's going to take a little bit longer because some of the service here is pretty slow. I'll tell you about that in a personal level. You guys who know me, I'll explain that. But I'm not condemning the state at all. But it's just some of these strange things, I would say. But yeah, so I was just checking on some of the areas, and I was like watching this video about the whole group of protesters went into the sheriff's office in North Dakota for that whole Dakota Access Pipeline anti-movement on that, which is good. I know the Unicorn Riot did a video on it, and it did a good job. That's what I like about independent journalists, citizen journalists. That's going out there, keeping it real, unfiltered, without all these straw man, strong woman talk, which from the lamestream media still can't comprehend. We don't watch you bastards. You guys suck. And I say that in respect. Yeah, and yeah, so it's got to get a few more parts, but things are, getting there. But it's not major, just a few minor stuff. And I know I've been ranting on this for a little bit while. And of course, I was going through the Twitter accounts. They still use that whole thing about the Bundys, armed white people found not guilty, and they talk about the whole deal, the Dakota protest, and they're getting crapped on. And you know what? Like I said, when you see posts and tweets like that, my friends, look at it as a distraction. Okay, people are just trolling for attention. I know I digressed at my last episode. I was real critical, and even some of the presidential candidates like Jill Stein try to use that statement. It is just get you off guard, okay? Just try to get you in another way and get you a little bit angry on that, which is completely irrelevant because, like I said before, it is a tyrannical issue. So I'm not going to be talking about that for now. But of course, even I was checking on the areas about the emails are still looks like the Federal Bureau of Investigation has reopened the email investigation on Hillary Rodham Clinton, and of course CNN. Oh, it's someone else's. I'm like, you know what? The U.S. Supreme Court says the press can lie. So just do your homework, hear from their own words. I even heard what she had to say, which was more like a blow me, I'm higher than everybody else mentality. About her getting the facts straight. And it's like, yeah, when she comes to her facts on what she wants to do on her platform, is like, come on, give me a break. Bread and Circuses 101. So, without further ado, I'm going to be talking about a good amount of stuff here. I'm going to go too crazy. So this one here is from activist post by Vic Bishop. If I'm correct, this is originally written in, let me see. I'll have to repost and all that. But it says here, Americans preparing for strong possibility of violence on election day. Even links on USA Today, they're all talking about this, about riots and civil unrest. But here's what Vic Bishop has to say. With the U.S. presidential elections just around the corner, concerns about violence on election day seem to be escalating. Several schools have announced that they will not hold classes when the polls are open due to fear of potential violence, according to a recent survey of voters. A 51% majority of likely voters expressed at least some concern about the possibility of violence on election day. 1 in 5 are very concerned. Voters have been very obsessed in what's been an emotional presidential election year. It is possible that supporters of the winning party make a public display showing off their victory to emphasize the painful fact that the other candidate has lost. Will they become easy targets? Whoever has lost may question the validity of the election and accuse the opposing side of manipulating the results. If it comes to this, you should we should you should be we expect civil unrest. It may be smart to stock up on a few days of extra food and water. And there's a link for that, so you can check it out yourselves. So you can just hole up at home if need be. More details, aforementioned survey can be found here, which is actually from a USA link, USA Today, and it came a couple of days ago and talked about the same thing about Clinton Bill's lead and divided nation, worry about election violence. So to start using that fear factor, okay, to be very frank. And that's one thing you have to really pay attention to. Don't get caught. Don't be the pawn of the game, okay, when it comes down to this. Yeah, get prepped up, be ready. But the truth of the matter is, they're looking, the way it's being addressed, looking for the Messiah, okay? And I see it from both ends. And that's dangerous. We're not looking for a king, queen, or lordship. They're servants. And we all know there's a lot of rough edges on both sides. And of course, even Jill Stein will say, "Oh, he's Bill Clinton's a nut job, but he'd rather have him in there than Hillary because Hillary talked about she wants to go to war." So it's gonna be a big slippery slope. So you have to really aware on that. Of course, talk about the rigged elections, which Trump has been harping. But there's areas he is right as well. So you have to see that because there's been reports of vote fraud now with more technology trying to make it a little bit too obvious. So I'm going to continue on with the article. Election year has been filled with political hostilities. So it's back to activist posts to let you folks know. Let's keep you guys on track. It is no surprise people are apprehensive about Election Day. Voters in the U.S. have been passionately divided when it comes to the candidates. Many are fervent to keep the worst out of the two evils out of office. Decisions seem to be driven more by animosity towards one candidate rather than by inspiration or vision offered by the other. Regardless if the voter survey offers an accurate representation of how Americans truly feel, we cannot deny that political discord has already incited violence in communities across the state. A summary here offers just a glimpse, and let's check that little glimpse out by Slate.com. And of course, they have it right here, and protests broke out of violence. And when was this came out? The Soul Test news of opinions that came out. It came out in April, and it talked about the whole areas about people being arrested. What happened in Vegas, Dallas, Texas? One got hit by thrown by a rock. Another incident happened in San Jose. Attack and threw eggs at Trump supporters. And we can go on and on. Trump supporter was bloody, presumably by anti-Trump protesters. It's at Costa Mesa, California. And anti-Trump protesters scuffled in Anaheim. I'm not going to go too specific, but I'm just giving you a good rundown. And what's really disturbing is how many people really hired to do this. That's one thing I'm real curious. How many hired to do this? And I know the Travis project had a lot of evidence, prima facie evidence, stating that they were trying to stir the pot and try to point the finger at one or the other. And don't get me wrong, you're gonna have people in that other group as well that are Trump supporters. They're gonna have a few crackpots, but how many of them? But the only thing you gotta look at too, how many of them are hired to stir the pot? That's when the Travis project talks about that. And so I may just put those videos up there. I may not. I'm not going to guarantee, but I may just throw it in there just in case. But I know that's been big news. So I'm going to continue on here. So let's talk about some of the horrific incidences. And summary here offers us a glimpse at the various incidents have occurred during the year. Take a look at the reception a man wearing a Trump shirt hat received at a Clinton rally. There's a video for that, and that's And of course, violence isn't exclusive to Clinton supporters. Two videos below show Trump supporters respond to the unwelcome demonstration by their opposition. A couple of scuffles. One older gentleman got got clocked, and the person who got clocked got handcuffed when they had him leave the facility. So it's, as I say, there's a lot of, like, you could be critical. Don't get me wrong with these candidates, and I'm vocal on here too, and I boldly admit it. But why you want to use altercations and violence and try to get into a fist fight, And that's not how, as even true activists, people who are the real deal, don't believe in that platform. What we, like, many of us want to just to go and address the issues and talk about their actions, the candidate's actions, why we don't support this particular candidate. You want to lay down facts, not just what, oh, well, he hates women, or it doesn't work like that. You got to go with the facts. And there's a lot of controversies, too, with both these candidates. So that's why, folks, you got to, like, ease up a little bit. You got to have principles. Have your principles, okay? Honor them. And I'll continue on. With so much hatred and hostility surrounding the election, one can reasonably expect a violent or at least unpleasant conclusion. Any aggression will likely be exacerbated by the news media, which will make matters worse. Confidence in the election process falters. In addition to the looming question of who will be named president, another big unknown is how will the U.S. citizens react? Will they accept the results of the election? As per previous mention, voter survey, it seems like the confidence Americans once had in their election process is definitely floundering, which is true. And I'll go on here. 3 of 4 say that they have confidence that the United States will have a peaceful transfer of power that has marked American democracy for more than 200 years. It's just about 40% said they are very confident about that. More than 4 in 10 of Trump supporters say they won't recognize the legitimacy of Clinton as president if she prevails because they say she wouldn't have won fair and square. More than 2/3 of Trump supporters say they worry the election returns could be manipulated. In contrast, 8 in 10 of Clinton voters say the return can be trusted, be fair and accurate. And there's an interesting source from there. Where that source came from? Let's just check this out. USA Today, if I'm correct. Again, yeah, okay, same link. All right, about to divide it and so forth. So that's USA Today. Sometimes everyone has their polls differently. There's one poll stating that only 4% have confidence in the American government. So in that aspect, based on that particular poll, 96% don't trust it, don't trust the government or the election, so forth, which is good. I'm not saying that out of lust and malice or anything like that. I could continue on here. Best course is stay prepared. The drama of the election will likely to continue after November. It is reasonable to expect that some communities will experience civil unrest, particularly where divisions are strong. It only makes sense to prepare, at least at the basic level, within the week's worth of storable food and water available in your home. It might also be smart to stock up your bag-out bag. Of course, some may felt the need to be a bit more aggressive with the preparedness plans. Since the polls are starting to shift quite a bit toward Hillary Clinton, I've been buying a lot more ammunition, says Rick Darling, 69, an engineer from Harrison Township in Michigan's Detroit suburbs. In a follow-up phone interview after being surveyed, the Trump supporter says he fears progressives will want to declare martial law and take our guns away after the election. Easier said than done, my friend. They can rant and rave all they want, but you know what? That's not going to fly. It's going to be very difficult for them to do it. Are you worried about violence on election day? Do you have preparedness plan in place in case of civil unrest? Please share your views and comment the section below. I'm going to expect a lot of stress, but sometimes how accurate is it going to be? That's the thing. How far are they going to push it, and how many of them are going to jump on it? That's the question. That's one they gotta look out for. It doesn't matter what side, but how many of them will be hired guns? That's one that you have to look at. You're always gonna have those plants and infiltrators that are paid to stir the pot. Okay, well look what, like I say, it's based on some of the videos I've seen by Verteris Project. I know I'm going back to it. It was caught red-handed. Some of the stuff they were doing, and of course, Mr. James O'Keefe did state about in the FCEC that some of those activists are getting paid, which it is documented. Is prima facie just cause it is public information. You folks can look at it, fec.gov. Just check it out for yourselves. And everyone said the Republicans are in shambles. I say in some cases the Democrats are in shambles. Like, you know what? Both major parties right now are in deep crap on the federal level. Okay, and I will say this: that would be the biggest mistake to make if you're gonna start riots, burn down communities, because they may just bust people in from other towns, pay them to wreck stuff up. And it happened before. And don't tell me I'm wrong, because it happens multiple times. Baltimore, Ferguson. I know. Watching videos of people in Baltimore, people who live there, were calling these loot rioters out. Go, you're not from Baltimore. Then they were like, they were chasing them out. Let's give you an example. It can happen anywhere, and they don't want to do it at a place where there's a firearm friendly territory. Okay, so that's one thing for sure. Even in Florida, firearms are legit. You can carry if you're meant to have your permit, but people will be armed. And what are we gonna do? You're gonna walk around and trying to start people? It's not gonna work in those areas. It's like it happened in Cleveland. A lot of the activists want to stir some crap up. They could have go, oh well, the people there were carrying guns. I'm like, you have my sympathies. So I just laugh at them. That's how some of these folks are. But definitely always prepare for the worst. Okay, and if you're gonna do it, I recommend it. Stay vigilant and even talk to your neighbors, because you want to make sure your community, your area, won't get bombarded by this so-called negative manifestation. But I know I'll be digressing, but there's one little link here too on the link about preparedness, which is in the activist post site. 3 things to prepare, no matter which candidate wins the election, is from Off the Grid Post, and you can get food and all that. So and they tell you about civil unrest, another economic crisis, and they have a video what really happened in Syria. So definitely, yeah. Isaac Davis wrote this, so you know what? Definitely check it out. It's it'll be good. It'll be good to better be safe than sorry. But like I said, don't use it out of fear, but awareness. Okay. All right. Next one here came from Professor Filip Kozovic. He's from Newsbuds, and this one's entitled "NATO Warmonger at the Highest Pitch: Andres Fogh Rasmussen's Recent Book and the 21st Century Colonialism." And of course, introduction to Rasmussen and me on the warm spring evening in May 2014 when Andres Fogh Rasmussen and Secretary General of NATO met in Podgorica with top officials of the corrupt Montenegrin regime led by the Prime Minister Milo Djukanovic. I was one of the protesters in front of the building in which the meeting took place. In one hand, I remember holding the sign that said, "No to war, no to NATO," and in another, a flag of the movement of a neutrality of Montenegro, or MNMNE, a civic social justice organization where I'm chairman of the board. Later that evening, I issued a public statement reported by the Montenegrin media in which I accused Rasmussen of direct meddling in the electoral process because his visit came just a few days before the decisive mayoral elections in Podgorica. Djukanovic click was on the brink of losing the election after 2 decades of uninterrupted rule, and it was clear that Rasmussen's visit would be as the proof that Dojanovic still had a strong backing among the Western allies. Things eventually played out as I just had predicted. Dojanovic's candidate won the election thanks in part of the Rasmussen support in his role of the NATO security general. Rasmussen thus played a significant role in keeping the corrupt and the authoritarian but geopolitically loyal elite empowered for years to come. His actions openly expose the deceptive nature of NATO's claims that it stands for democracy, human rights, and rule of law. See, so he sees a disturbing picture here. Rasmussen's political profile, in fact, moral duplicity and geopolitical bias have been Rasmussen's modus operandi from the very beginning of his political career. Ever since his time as a Prime Minister of Denmark, 2001 to 2009, Rasmussen acted as a staunch supporter of the U.S. neoconservatives' efforts to impose hegemonic Pax Americana on the world. He saw the expansion of NATO and into East Central Europe, including the ex-Soviet republics of Ukraine and Georgia, and the extension of the U.S. imperial reach into the Middle East and Central Asia as political imperatives. Rasmussen was also one of the most vocal supporters of the Iraq War, and Danish soldiers went into Iraq almost immediately after the U.S. invasion. And when Danish intelligence officer Frank S. Greville leaked to the press the intelligence reports showing that Rasmussen knowingly exaggerated the threat of Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction, which turned out to be non-existent. 2, he was fired and jailed for months, even though he did what was act as a whistleblowing in defense of the public right to know about the misdeeds and abuse of power by public officials. In contrast, Rasmussen denied that he received the reports or that he knew anything about them, and was able to stay in power successfully for another 5 years. Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! Get me respect doing a tyrannical way. There you go. Imperialism's the only way, my friends. Even as recently as 2015, the Danish government blocked attempts by the opposition to have a thorough investigation in Rasmussen's. Okay, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Rasmussen's decision-making process that led to the decision to go to war against Iraq. As some observers point out, the former British Prime Minister Tony Blair, another advocate of the Iraq War, was not so lucky, and the Chilcot Commission's report condemned his actions in no certain terms. And yet, even this report led to hardly any significant political or legal repercussions for Blair. Did anyone really expect that the corrupt British political elite and the intelligence community would turn on one of its own? Absolutely not, because they're all part of the New World Order, because they're all bend over bobs and proud. Yay! All right, the 12th NATO Secretary General. Rasmussen even got rewarded for being the poster boy for the political immorality and cynicism of the global Pax Americana promoters by being selected for the position of the NATO Secretary General in August 2009. During his 5-year tenure until October 2014, Rasmussen worked around the clock to push NATO military intelligence apparatus further east and legitimizes bloody intervention in the Middle East and North Africa, the Arab Spring rebellions, NATO's destruction of Libya, and covert intervention in Syria all took place under his watch. He was one of the main architects of the strategies of NATO's imperialism expansionism, which I think should be referred to by its true name, 21st century colonialism. That's right, the Club of Rome, New World Order 101. In addition, no Secretary General before him was driven by such a deep-seated negativity towards anything Russian. He openly supported the Ukrainian coup in February 2014 and condemned Russia for the firm reaction to what was an unmistakable attack on its vital national interest, something that no state in the world would tolerate, not even the tiniest one, let alone a nuclear power. Therefore, it did not come as a surprise when several months later, Rasmussen was awarded for the Ukrainian Medal of Liberty, the highest Ukrainian decoration performed by the NATO installed President Petro Poroshenko. In a twist of morbid cynicism, Rasmussen was praised by the Kyiv leadership as one of Ukraine's liberators, even though he was one of those most responsible for instigating a horrendous civil war in which thousands of Ukrainian citizens have lost their lives and more than 1 million were driven into exile. Wow, this may sound like a scenario of the Ministry of Propaganda from George Orwell's Dystopian novel 1984 is even worse than it's because it's not fiction but real life. And we could say this, probably Rasmussen's favorite book and favorite book is The Grand Chessboard, and his mentor is, in my view, I don't know what your opinions are, folks, Zbigniew Brzezinski, Big Brother. Put your arms together, cross them, stand up. All right, the Rasmussen goal consultancy firm. After his mandate as a NATO head ended, Rasmussen opened a geopolitical consultancy company called Rasmussen Global. According to a company's website, Rasmussen's goal was to set up to offer strategic advice to the governments, global organizations, and major corporations. As I've shown in an early article, Rasmussen boasted on his Facebook page that he expected to have many customers. While it's not clear for how many he has so far, his most significant customer appeared just a few months ago when, in May 2016, Petro Poroshenko appointed him to the position of a special presidential advisor. If you're tyrannical and corrupt, you're qualified. Rasmussen was hired to do what he said best at, to do as much damage as possible to the EU-Russian relations. For instance, in an interview in February 2016, even before he got the job, Rasmussen strongly condemned the construction of another Nord Stream gas pipeline connecting Russia and Germany. Every time Russia is concerned, Rasmussen has quickly abandoned his doctrinal insistence on market freedom and free trade. He is a fierce defender of freedom, and he's like to refer to himself only when freedom is advantageous to his own geopolitical agenda. So, in other words, he's conceded. In all other cases, no freedom is to be allowed, and even the legitimate public right to know can be punished by jail time, as in the case of a whistleblower, Frank S. Grievel, mentioned earlier. It is no wonder then that the Russian parliamentarian Leonid Kalashnikov called Poroshenko's appointment of Rasmussen as an advisor a hostile gesture. Once again, Rasmussen's well-documented Russophobia acquired the official cover. No long after the appointment, Rasmussen crisscrossed the EU capitals in order to pressure and perhaps even blackmail the already doubtful EU leaders, not only to extend the sanctions against Russia, but also to make them even more stringent. At the same time, he argued that Ukraine had already taken great strides on the road to democracy and respect for the rule of law. He stated that current Ukrainian administration under President Poroshenko has carried out more reforms of Ukrainian society than you have seen in the past 20 years. In other words, the EU should consider Poroshenko an angel and Putin a devil. Witch hunt, baby. I have a witch hunting fetish. Hire me. Okay, sir, congratulations. Rasmussen is far from being alone in publicly pushing his narrative. This line of thinking is also dominant in the CFR dominant Washington power elite. Includes Vice President Joe Biden and the Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. That does not bode well for the future for the world. Exactly. Because I remember Hillary, if I'm correct, I don't know she's a member of the CFR. Yeah, I'm about to look that up just to be safe. But I know one thing. Her husband and daughter are CFR members. So you know what? What a concept, right? Rasmussen, as a CFR sponsored theorist of the 21st century colonialism, is precisely the CFR circle that have already brought Rasmussen to the U.S. to promote his new book, The Will to Lead: America's Indispensable Role in the Global Fight for Freedom and Apologia for the World's Dominance. What the hell? The thesis of the book boils down to the claim that the U.S. must, notice the imperative, be the world's policeman, and not only that, as Rasmussen's right in a September 2016 op in the Wall Street Journal, just as we need a policeman to restore order, we need a firefighter to put out the flames of conflict, and a kind of mayor, smart and sensible, to lead the rebuilding. So, in addition of being a global policeman, the U.S. should also assume the roles of a global firefighter and a global mayor. Oh, yeah, man. You could say he's a bend over Bob to the New World Order, and Uncle Tom to be exact, right? There is no mistaking it. This is called for the U.S. to colonize the entire world. It is a geopolitical narrative of the 21st century colonialism. Rasmussen's narrative fully reflects the megalomania of the U.S. neoconservatives in its worst authoritarian manifestation, as exemplified, for instance, in the Project for a New American Century. It is ominous that after the project has been discredited by a decade and a half of failed wars and covert operations, Rasmussen is again recycling it for the U.S. audiences. Bringing that intellectual zombie back to life only means further suffering and pain, not only for the world's most vulnerable populations, but also for the U.S. citizens, especially those from the middle and working classes. Rasmussen and his CFR sponsors are far from being obvious to the inflammatory character of his statements. They are, in fact, perniciously provoking Russia and, to lesser degree, Iran and China, because they are saving these countries for later. Exactly. In order to peg the responsibility for the line of fire, the phrase used by the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry, which he's a CFR member as well, in East Central Europe and Central Asia on the recent Russian activities, as already pointed out, the prime target for that constant verbal attacks is Putin, according to Rasmussen. Putin is a corrupt dictator who brutally attacks his neighbors and works to undermine the rule-based international world order. The fact that NATO itself undermined the UN Charter and the U.S. Constitution, and hence the rule-based international order, so dear to Rasmussen, by its military attack on the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia in 1999, when Putin was still a relative unknown in the Russian political circles, is conveniently swept under the rug. It does not fit the narrative that NATO is a moral force for peace, democracy, and human rights. In the worldview of those who advocate U.S. global hegemony through military domination and the empire of bases, NATO is depicted as a savior, and all destructive activities are silently passed over. In the mid to long term, these activities are ideologically justified, minimized, or even filtered out completely in scientific research, articles, and history books by the geopolitically sympathetic but corrupt academics. In this respect, it is particularly revealing to note what Rasmussen writes about Libya, the relatively prosperous state brutally wiped off the map by NATO bombs and turned into safe havens for head-chopping extremists. Referring to Libya, Rasmussen suddenly become strictly factual. He says that in North Africa, Libya has collapsed and become a breeding ground for terrorists. He provides absolutely no analysis as to why and how this happened. He makes it seem like a natural catastrophe. Out of the blue, the state collapsed and terrorists just move in. Most of Rasmussen's arguments are as infantile as this one, and yet on October 3rd, 2016, he was invited to present his book at Harvard University, The Championing of the U.S. Hegemonic Agenda, while at the same time seriously eroding the space for his critics, show the near complete capture of the premier institutions of the U.S. higher education by the military-industrial intelligence complex, disrespect for the other world's cultures and traditions, and overall dumbing down of the American society are the obvious consequences. From a perspective of the U.S. global hegemonist, even perfectly rational suggestions by Putin may sound like a war crime. Rasmussen tells of a meeting with Putin in 2009. The latter said to him, "After the Cold War, we dissolved the Warsaw Pact. Similarly, you should dissolve NATO. This is a relic of a Cold War." Rasmussen also fell off his chair when he heard this because for him, NATO is the holy of holies that nobody is supposed to come near and criticize, let alone call for its dissolution. And yet, what he and others from his ideological camp considered the holy of holies is none other than the dark god of death that every day brings the world closer to a nuclear apocalypse. Yeah, so and there's plenty of notes, footnotes in here too. You can look it up yourself. But like I said, my friends, always observe responsibly. So he's not Dr. Kovacevic. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. He's not making this up. Hey, my friends, this is a lot of us are real critical on what's going on. And Rasmussen, he's just a globalist war hawking demonad, or other words, a whore. So that's how I look at this, see this based on his past practices. And this is not going to be made up by any means. Because right now, NewsBuds, so far, I really appreciate their articles. They got good links. They share information to others as well. Check them out. Donate money. But yeah, this whole thing, the 21st century colonialism, is just New World Order 101. The United States of America is just a patsy nation. And even the American people right now are waking up to this. They don't like what's going on. They see the deception. And the heads are going to be rolling real soon. I'm expecting that. If people say, "Oh, they're going to happen," things are happening. We got to stop being an empire. We got to kick these bastard banksters and get the UN out, as far as I'm concerned. Get all these global entities, including the CFR, Trilateral Commission, all that. They got to go. For others, a lot of them need to be charged for treason and espionage, racketeering, and all that. That's how I look at it. Including Rasmussen, he should be. They should tie him like a stuffed pig and have where he's from. Hey, get him, get him on a due process too. All right, next one here. Got this earlier this morning. It says here, "Is too much screen time hurting your kids' mental growth?" This is by Daniel Barker from naturalnews.com. And as it says here, in an effort to steer away from its previous one-size-fits-all policy, the American Association of Pediatrics has issued a new set of guidelines regarding how much children should spend in front of the television and computer screens. Until now, the AAP has recommended more than 2 hours of screen time for children, regardless of their age, type of content viewed, or which medium was used. Recognize that such blanket approach could not effectively address the issues at hand. The AAP has recently taken steps to broaden its policies. From Gizmodo.com says, in a series of papers published today in the science journals Pediatrics, it's clear that the AAP has significantly revised its thinking on the matter, breaking down the media used according all these criteria. And to support parents with these new recommendations, the AAP has published an interactive online tool that families can use to create a personalized family media use plan. AAP's new screen time guidelines, the new recommendations are aimed at unique circumstances of various age groups. For example, AAP recommends that children under 18 months should avoid screens altogether except for limited occasions such as social media sessions with grandparents. Children between the age of 18 and 24 months may be introduced to digital media, but the content should be high quality programming and watched together with parents. And I agree with that. That's been going on even when the television came out. I agree with that. Kids between the ages of 2 and 5 should be limited to 1 hour of high quality programming, which also be watched in the presence of parents. Parents should impose consistent limits on the time spent on the front of a screen by children of 6 and older, especially for entertainment purposes. Children should not be allowed to sleep with their smartphones, tablets, and should have one media-free hour before bedtime. Media free times are such during meals should be established, and the media free zones in the household should be defined. Making sure kids get an hour of daily exercise and enough sleep at night is also part of the equation, according to AAP. The parenting in the digital age ain't easy. As logical as these recommendations may sound, implementing them may not always be easy. Most parents know that limiting their kids' online time isn't always easy, and many would be forced to admit that digital media can be helpful in managing children. Parents obviously want to raise healthy children who aren't constantly glued to computer screens, but these devices are a godsend for those moments when a parent needs to make dinner or when they simply need to go to the bathroom. When it comes to limiting screen time, there's a trade-off between parental health and the needs of a child, and that needs to be acknowledged. Let's face it, smartphones play a big part in our children's lives now, for better or for worse. There is also an age a parent can no longer police a child's online activity without invading his or her privacy. The best thing a parent can do is to set consistent rules for youngsters' children's screen times and try to help them learn to use technology without becoming hopelessly addicted to it. One way to accomplish that is by setting an example. How much time do you spend in front of a TV, computer, or smartphone? Screen yourself and the presence of your children. Children, that's a question. Many adults are as hopelessly addicted to digital media as their teens or children are, except a child limit the time online that must be willing to do the same. You might even try doing something completely out of the ordinary, like reading a book to your child or having your child read one to you. As crazy it might sound, there was a time when such practices were common, and I have to agree on that. There's other ways of make your kids productive. Yeah, if they want to go out and play exercise, do it with them if you can. Have them run around with them. Have them read I agree, reading the books. Have them teach them a few things like building blocks and all that. It's multiple ways of making this happen because I see people out there on their phones and they're like focusing on garbage and stuff only. Like we have our entertainment moments. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of kids, they got to teach them use this as a tool. Utilize it. Not just let it sit there, have it control you. You got to control it. It's like artists and musicians and philosophers. You want to control it. Don't let it control you. Because I see the kids out there on their phones at the restaurants too, and I'm like, wow, man, like insane. Hopefully they're reading something at least, but it is a technological drug, people may call it. So that's why myself, I go on and I just like to listen. And I intentionally go on recommendation. I would let the parents. I recommend have parents, even to yourselves. If you're watching like a YouTube video and so forth, or watching something on Netflix, or have a DVD, you know what? Try to use the subtitles. Have the subtitles on because it's been proven when you have the subtitles, it's like reading. Your your brain will get the signal. It won't be flatlined. That's another good thing I recommend. So like use like multiple tasks, tasking even for your kids. Because when they see that, they go, hey, I want to give them a hand and so forth. So do things together. That's how I agree. And that's a tradition. Make them productive. Don't just have them rely on one thing. Hey, we all got our bad habits too. So I gotta learn that. All right. So all right. Next one here came from the antimedia.org. It says here NYPD catches itself selling stolen goods, blames business owner. Now this is hilarious. I just bust out laughing when I heard this. I have the video on here too, but you guys can watch it yourself. It says here, New York business owner in Manhattan is suing the city after being forced to waive his Fourth Amendment rights and potentially forfeit his business because NYPD officers sold illegal goods at his store. You read that, right? According to a lawsuit filed this month by the Institute of Justice, a libertarian legal advocacy group, an undercover New York NYPD detective attempted to sell stolen electronics to a customer at Sung Cho's laundromat in Inwood, which is located near the northern tip of Manhattan, so like you're right near the Bronx. In 2013, after the officer successfully sold stolen goods to two people, one inside the store and one outside, the city threatened Cho with eviction merely because a stolen property offense had happened at his business, what the legal organization's website explained. So, so he got entrapped. The Institute for Justice, which takes cases involving the suppression of free speech, eminent domain, and civil asset forfeiture, and among other government encroachment, detailed Cho's case. The city presented Sung with a choice: see his business shut down or sign an agreement giving up constitutional rights, including the Fourth Amendment right to be free from warrantless searches of his business. Faced with imminent closure of his laundromat, Sung had no choice but to sign it. What? Oh man, what did something like that? They need a "I love Benito Mussolini" banner over "Welcome to New York." Under the city's decades-old nuisance eviction ordinance, residents and business owners can be convicted simply because an illegal act occurred on or near their property. Though the law was passed in the 1970s to target businesses that encourage illegal activity, like many laws have it has been abused. And like I say, that violates Article 1 of the New York State Constitution, okay? Under the ordinance, identity of the criminal offender is irrelevant, IJ explains. You can't be convicted because a total stranger or a friend or a family member inside your home or business was a good place to commit a crime. According to IJ, in many cases, the proof of the alleged criminal offense is in an affidavit from the NYPD relaying vague allegations from unnamed confidential informants. A joint investigation by ProPublica and the New York Daily News reported that in Cho's case, the police claim in court filings that his business was facilitating an illegal fencing operation because the undercover detective sold illegal goods there in 2013. None of Cho's employees were ever accused and of charged with the crime. Nevertheless, in cases like Cho's, the city often offers to drop the charges, but only if the defendant agrees to relinquish their constitutional rights. Some are forced to sign agreements waiving their Fourth Amendment rights, IJ explains. According to Publica and the New York Daily News, Cho agreed to give up his rights to a hearing before being fined and agreed to be shut down if police accuse anybody at his shop of breaking the law in the future. He must allow the police to search his business and his assets, his security footage at any time. The terms continue in perpetuity and pass on to any new buyer or partner in Cho's business, which he said makes it essentially worthless. I couldn't really defend myself. That's why we had to settle prior to going to the judge, Cho said. Just because it happened nearby, under law, I am guilty, and that is not right. Hell yeah, that's called blackmail, man. You know? The ordinance is being abused in other ways as well, as IJ explains. Others are forced to sign agreements barring family members from the home, including family members who have been accused of any crime. This case was of Jamalia Al-Shabazz, also represented in IJ's suit, who was forced to ban her son from her home. She was required to do do so after he was falsely accused of possessing 45 cups of cocaine during a police search of a bedroom at her residence in 2011. Laboratory tests proved her son did not have cocaine or any other narcotic. She says the powder the NYPD found was crushed eggshells he used for spiritual rituals. There are no charges were ever pressed. 4 months later, she was served with a nuisance case in order forcing her from her apartment while the case was being decided, ProPublica and the New York Daily News reported. She says when she signed the agreement, she had no idea it meant she had to permanently ban her son from her home. I am going to make my son homeless because of false accusations, she said. The ProPublica Daily News investigation reports that of over 1,000, 1,100 cases. They did that pretty crappy there. 1,100 cases in which these notices were issued during 2013 and the first half of 2014. Fewer than half of the individuals targeted had actually committed a crime. They reported the cases occurred almost exclusively in the Black and Latino communities. IJ's suit files another similar lawsuit concerning a woman who was evicted from her home for 4 days after police claimed drugs were illegally sold there. As it turns out, those engaging in illegal activity had moved out 8 months prior. Though Mayor Bill de Blasio responded to the lawsuit saying he believes everyone is entitled to a fair trial. City Attorney Nicholas Capeta claimed in a recent motion that a woman was not entitled to any additional process. The city laws department said it has not yet seen IJ's new case filing. Yeah, you gotta start reading your state constitutions, a bunch of asswipes. And even to Mayor de Blasio doesn't bend over Bob anyway. He supports the whole what they call it, the Smart Cities Network. Let me see, Strong Cities Network. Excuse me, Strong Cities Network. Through the NYPD has amended its use of the ordinance to restrict full closures on homes. While nuisance cases are still being decided, they continue to endorse the law. This is one of the many important tools we use as a part of precision policing to continue to drive down crime and to protect the public. Police Commissioners J.P. O'Neill said, yeah, stick it up your rectum, man. Pathetic. But Chose disagrees. It's unfair, he asserted, unfair to me, unfair to all the investments I made here, unfair to the employees that work here and support their families. It's New York City versus a little guy like me. Robert Johnson, the lead attorney on the case representing Cho, L. Shabazz, and one other individual strongly objected to the practice. The mere fact that someone's been arrested is not just a reason they should be kicked out of an apartment, he said. The case was filed in the United States Court of Southern District of New York. Johnson said IJ is prepared to take the case against the covertly obtained settlements all the way to the Supreme Court. If they win past waiver, the constitutional rights will be declared unenforceable, and going forward, this practice will be put to end once and for all. Folks, they better start reading their New York State Constitution too. That's totally illegal on that and totally unacceptable. Go get me wrong. It's New York City, and it's a New York City. It's a confounded police state. It's been like that for a long time. I'm from Brooklyn. I can make that statement. And I don't leave it. If I lived there, they'd probably throw my ass in jail for too many times for being a critical thinker. Oh, you're not a patriot. You're against the Patriot Act. That's right. I'll go out there and say, the hell with your New World Order. They'd probably throw my ass in jail. And I'll ask de Blasio how they feel being a global Uncle Tom. Completely unacceptable, and this is why this is another example of tyranny. And this has happened on a national level. Okay, it's happening on all three levels. And that's why when I tell folks, like, complain about the Mahler 7, they go, oh, about the white people. Hey, they're getting screwed. People getting screwed everywhere. That's why you use that race card again. It's not going to fly. Like one gentleman said, Larry Pinckney, and I agree with him. Since the 14th Amendment, we're all in the same tyrannical plantation, my friends. So think about that. Don't think about your little petty things, okay? All right. Next one here came from Charles Con- Charles Koch Institute.org, and it's entitled. It came out yesterday because it's entitled "Majority Believe U.S. Foreign Policy Has Made Americans Less Safe." And it says here only 14% of registered voters in the United States believe that the country's foreign policy has made them safer since 2001, according to a poll of 1,000 Americans released today by Charles Koch Institute and the Center for the National Interest. More than half believe that both the U.S. and the rest of the world are less safe today as a result of the nation's foreign policy choices over the last 15 years. Likewise, only 25% of the American voters feel the next president should expand the use of military abroad, while over half feel that the next administration should use military less than has been used since 2001. I can see the people who support that, the 25% expand the military abroad. You're going to go on the front line? I want you to go on the front line, okay? I see how tough you are. Per the American people, the foreign policy status quo is failing and a new direction needs to be set by incoming administration and Congress, said William Ruger, Vice President for the Research and Policy at the Charles Koch Institute. The United States needs a strong national defense to keep us safe, and the public is demanding a humbler, wiser approach steeped in realism when using our military abroad. This poll shows that the disconnect between the Washington foreign policy elite who support an active, aggressive stance and an American public that is wary of repeated ventures abroad that don't make us or the world any safer. Given our failures in the places like Iraq and Libya, the American public desires a more prudential path forward, not surprising since they had to pay the cost of mistakes made in Washington. Americans believe U.S. foreign policy over the last several decades has made them less safe. When asked if U.S. foreign policy over the last 15 years had Americans made more or less safe, a majority of 53% said less safe, just 40% more safe, while a quarter said U.S. foreign policy had kept the level of safety about the same. When asked if U.S. foreign policy over the last 15 years had made the world more or less safe, 51% said less safe, 13% said more, and 24% said safety levels had stayed the same. Half of respondents believe in the war in Iraq made the United States somewhat much less secure, while 26% said the war didn't increase or decrease U.S. security. 42% of Americans believe the U.S. military operation in Afghanistan made the United States less secure, while 34% said the operation didn't increase or decrease U.S. security. Looking forward, Americans want Washington to practice prudence and exhibit greater realism abroad. When asked if, in comparison to the last 15 years, the next president should use the U.S. military abroad more or less, an overwhelmingly majority, 75%, said less were unsure. When asked whether the United States should deploy ground troops to Syria, 51% of Americans said no, 24% said yes, and 25% were not sure. Like I said, 24% go on the front line. Thank you. When asked whether the United States should deploy ground troops to help Saudi Arabia in war against Yemen, only 10% said yes. In fact, wanted limited or no engagement in Yemen. 41% of the United States to only provide logistical military support, while nearly a quarter, 20%, don't want even the level of support. So you folks out there, you better start learning about Yemen, okay? So go on the front line if you want to go there and fight, deploy troops. Congress should have a greater say in foreign policy. A plurality of Americans are comfortable with current defense spending, while a majority see no need for increase. When asked if the president should be required to get congressional authorization before committing the United States to military action abroad, 8% said yes. When asked whether the U.S. should increase national defense spending, decrease it, or keep its spending at current rates, a plurality, 39%, want to keep spending levels the same, 17% would seek further cuts, 37% want more spending on the military. The American people are eager to see Congress reassert its constitutional role as a check on presidents of either party through requiring congressional authorization for overseas military action, said Paul J. Saunders, executive director for the Center of National Interest. They want a strong national defense, but not overseas wars disconnected from essential U.S. interests that often make America less secure. We are pleased to work with Larry Koch Institute to share these important findings. And here, the nation survey was conducted by Survey Sampling International, a leading web-based panel. In October 2016, results are unweighted. The survey had a representative sample of 1,000 respondents based on age, gender, geographic region, and race, ethnicity, with a plus a plus or minus 4 percentage points margin of error. And you could check these guys out on the Center for National Interest. They tell you everything about it, and they've got the websites here, so check it out yourselves. And yeah, and it's good because, like I said, because people are seeing we can't be the leaders, we can't be the world police or be an empire. So those things are good. So people are waking up to that. And I told everyone, we get the book called Blowback. And like his last name was Johansson. I know I said it a few times in the past, but check that book out. It's very good. And it talks about why foreign policy is pretty bad and stuff. We get involved, it blows back in our faces. Good example, Iran. In 1979, when the Ayatollah took over, a lot of people don't even know about Operation Ajax. You can look it up now. It's on its face. A lot of it's been declassified. So do your homework. Say yes to a republic, no to an empire, and defy a corporation. Okay? Thank you. All right. So we're gonna do a little one more thing here, and it's by truthout.org, and it talks about the whole Dakota Access Pipeline, and it says here how to talk about hashtag no DAPL, a native perspective by Kelly Hayes. It says here Stacy Ilkery of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, who has been at the campsite set up to protest the North Dakota Access oil pipeline for 5 weeks near Cannonball, North Dakota on October 8, 2016. And there's an earlier version of this piece appeared on Transformative Spaces. It shouldn't take that long, but let's kick back, relax. As it reads here, the public witnessed a new level of escalation on Thursday in the NATO struggle at Standing Rock as police swept through an encampment in direct path of the Dakota Access Pipeline. The resulting standoff with National Guard and police officers from various states led to 117 arrests. Advancing authorities attacked water protectors with flash grenades, beanbag launchers, pepper spray, and long-range acoustic devices, which is LRADs. There were also numerous reports of police beating water protectors and reports of live ammunition being used. I can say this: I saw some of the video footage, live feed from Revolution News, and I did see flash grenades and someone get hit by a beanbag too. So just give you guys an example, and pepper spray also. And as I continue here, such developments were incredibly disturbing, both of those present and to natives who were actively watching from a distance, but the raid itself was not unexpected. In fact, there was a great deal of suspicion that the police would close in the day before, which led me to reach out a number of my friends on the front lines Wednesday. Amid our conversations about their feelings and recent experiences at the camps, I asked my friends if there was anything they wanted to share in writing. What follows is grounded in the substance of those conversations. These ideas are obviously not representative of all Native perspectives on the subject, because our convictions are as diverse as that any people's, but it is perspective we thought was worthy of expression, a shared reflection. It is crucial that people recognizing that Standing Rock is part of an ongoing struggle against colonial violence. One moment. The Dakota Access Pipeline is a front of struggle in a long erased war against native peoples, a war that has been active since first contact and waged without interruption. Our efforts to survive the conditions that is anti-native society have gone largely unnoticed because white supremacy is the law of the land, and because we as native people have been pushed beyond the limits of public consciousness. And in fact, that we are more likely to be killed by law enforcement than any other group speaks to the fact that native erasure is ubiquitous, both culturally and literally, but pushed from public view. Our struggles intersect with numerous others, but are perpetrated with different motives and intentions. Anti-blackness, for example, is a demonstration of power, whereas the violence against us is a matter of pragmatism. The struggle at Standing Rock is an effort to prevent the construction of a deadly, destructive mechanism created by greed-driven people with no regard of our lives. It has always been this way. We die and have died for the sake of expansion and white wealth, and for the maintenance of both. The harms committed against us have been long relegated to the history books. This erasure occurred for the sake of both white supremacy and U.S. mythology, such as American exceptionalism. It has also been perpetrated to sustain the comfort of those who benefit from harms committed against us. Our struggles have been both out of sight and out of mind, easily forgotten by those who aren't directly impacted. It should be clear to everyone they are we are not simply here in those rare moments when others bear witness. To reiterate what should we should be obvious, we are not simply here when you see us. We have always been here, fighting our lives, surviving colonization, and that reality has rarely been acknowledged. Even people who believe in freedom frequently overlook our issues, as well as the intersections of their issues with our own. It matters more of the world is bearing witness in this historic moment. However, we feel the need to point out that the dialogue around hashtag no DAPL has become increasingly centered on climate change. Yes, there's undeniable connectivity between this front of struggle and the larger fight to combat planetary warming. We fully recognize that of all humanity is at risk of extinction, whether we realize it or not. But intersectionality does not mean focusing exclusively on intersections of our respective work. It sometimes means taking a journey well outside the bounds of those intersections. In discussing hashtag no DAPL, too few people have started from a place of naming that we as indigenous people, hopefully I got indigenous people, have the right to defend our water and our lives simply because we have a natural right to defend ourselves and our communities. When climate justice, in a very broad sense, becomes the center of conversation, our fronts of struggle are often reduced to a staging ground for the managing of NGOs or non-governmental organizations. Yes, everyone should be talking about climate change, but you should also be talking about the fact that the Native communities deserve to survive because our lives are worth defending in their own right, not simply because that affects all of us. So when you talk about Standing Rock, please begin by acknowledging that the pipeline was redirected from an area where it was most likely to impact the residents of Bismarck, North Dakota, when Bismarck's population, which is over 90% white, objected to the risk the pipeline posed to their drinking water. Their concerns were accommodated, and the pipeline route was shifted into treaty lands. Please inform people of these facts and remind them that our people are struggling to survive the violence of colonization on many fronts. People should not simply engage with stories related to our struggles when they see a concrete connection to their own issues, or jumping point off point to a discussion of their own issues. Our friends, allies, accomplices should be found alongside us because they value our humanity and right to live in addition to whatever else they believe in. Every native at Standing Rock, every native on this continent has survived the genocide of 100 million of our people. That means every indigenous child born is a victory against colonialism. But we are also born into a fight for our very existence. We need to be named and centered. This message is not commendation, it's fundamental condemnation. It's fundamentally reasonable ask. We are asking that you help ensure that dialogue around this issue begins with a center discussion of anti-Native violence and policies, no matter what other connections you might ultimately make, because those discussions simply don't happen in this country. There obviously aren't enough people to talk about climate change, but there are even fewer people. And let's be real, far fewer people. Discussions of various forms of violence that indigenous people are up against, and fewer acting in solidarity with us. And while such discussions have always been deserved, we are living in a moment when Native water protectors and water warriors have more than earned both acknowledgement and solidarity. If you have been with us in this fight, we appreciate you, but we are reaching out right now in these brave days are people to ask that you keep the aforementioned truths front and centered as you discuss no DAPL. This moment is first and foremost about Native liberation, Native self-determination, and Native survival. It was nicely done. And I know there's time to talk about climate change and so forth, but as always, you gotta look at everything across the board. They don't want to see lands be deliberately altered, the pipelines, because about the water, which I agree. And these folks, these individuals, have the right to live and be left alone, not be treated like garbage. And it's not going to say I'm positive being white either, because that's, to me, that's inapplicable. However, you got greedy bastards out there that don't care. They will cut people's throats just to get that piece of property for their own lust and greed. I condemn that too. And furthermore, I condemn all genocide and democide. And another reason I never, a person like myself, never trust the government. When you study history, my friends, then you learn to be inspired, be a lot more vigilant. But let the folks know, doesn't matter where you're at, this has to be addressed. You have to spread this word like wildfire. And this is why a person like myself, hey, I inherited a mess, but I don't have the blood guilt. But one thing I know, start learning about their culture, their livelihood, their history, and you can share it. We can all share our heritage and make it stronger than ever before. Nothing's going to be perfect, but folks like them, they're even multinational corporations trying to take over lands. And just for temporary later, put in pipes, put the oil in. Come on. That's why I never bought it when they addressed it. It doesn't need to be done. You have other ways of getting around that. Enough said. I'd like to thank everyone for listening to this episode. Plus, feel free to download and share this across your social media network. If you have any questions, comments, or you want to send me something that's interesting, I may like to check out. Whatever you do, please deliver your correspondences with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, or Scene.life. In addition, you can email me at LokiLuck3 which is LokiLuck, the number 3 at gmail.com. Yeah, I want to play this one little tune. I'm thinking about using it as an outro for my show. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit political, like a little bit political in the whole copyright songs. Some stores are getting banned and all that, like in certain countries. And I'm not complaining about it. I'm not like I say, I'm not doing this for the money. I like to like play music that people may know, don't know, they remember, So, but this is why I might just give this a crack at it. May use this as an outro, as a new god. It's called Indifferent. Royalty free, by the way, and I will add those links on there to my footnotes so you can check it out yourselves. All right. Everyone be safe out there. And that's it. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.